Does your client want a coach or do they need a coach? I've had a couple of clients recently come into the supervision space and questioning whether their client has gotten dependent on them as a coach. There was one that I'm thinking of. He's had this growing sense, this growing discomfort that what am I still doing here? Shouldn't this client now go do their own thing? This has been some time that I'm coaching them, and they seem to not want to let me go. Even though we've reached the contracted goal, they just want to keep going. And now we no longer have contracted goals. We just kind of keep going. They say they value the conversations. And I think that there's open-ended coaching conversations where you just become a sounding board, your role changes. And that's a really helpful, especially in existential coaching. I think a lot of value lies in having someone there in your team holding space on a regular basis where you can check in who you are becoming, continuously staying aligned to your values, your beliefs. I think that's really helpful. Some might say, well, that's no longer coaching, then that becomes therapy. And I see where they're coming from. I don't necessarily agree with that. I think you can continuously coach, especially if you come through a lens like humanistic existential practice, because it's not so goal oriented, so goal focused, so solution focused. If for you coaching needs a challenge, or it needs a well defined goal, and it needs a problem that you're solving, then yes, maybe that's no longer coaching, and maybe that relationship needs to stop. Generally, I think it's helpful to check into a sense whether there might be some dependency that has been created now. A helpful question in this regard is, well, what if tomorrow you got kidnapped onto a beautiful island with zero way of communicating to anyone? Oh? Or, you die, or, something happens, you can no longer coach. You're just ripped out of life suddenly. What would that be like for your clients? And if you're unsure whether some sense of dependency would have developed, maybe ask your clients, confront them with that sort of scenario. Hey, I've been thinking, what would it be like if I were no longer there tomorrow? Just no longer being able to work with you. And really check the reaction of your client. If they get anxious, if they start freaking out, or if they get uncomfortable with the idea of you not being around, check that experience. Is that concerning? Is because if you're not around and they are struggling because of it, there might be some sense of dependency, and I think that's important to be addressed. Because we don't want to be needed, required. Ideally, we want to leave this relationship again, and this client will be very sufficient on their own. So the question is fair, and I think we need to involve our clients in that conversations. Right? We work in partnership, so I see a lot of coaches making decisions on their own that they could involve their client in. We don't need to have all the answers. We don't need to make all the decisions. If we work in partnership, we can make a lot of these decisions together with our client and see what they think. And then we make a decision on how to move forward together.